Ex-wife left 5 years of being married and having 2 kids later because she realized parenthood wasn't for her and she wanted to focus on growing her career big. So I cut my losses and moved on. 12 years pass by, and she's finally reaching out to connect with the kids again because she's finally retired and has this big trust fund set up for them, but is in disbelief she's single, lonely, and her own kids don't recognize her, and her money can't buy their love. 12 years ago, my life took a turn I never saw coming. My ex-wife, Maria, 48 at the time, decided that being a mother wasn't for her. After 5 years of marriage and 2 kids, she told me she couldn't handle the responsibilities of parenthood and wanted to focus on building her career. She said she felt trapped by family life and needed to be free to reach her full potential. It was like a gut punch. One day, I thought we were a team trying to navigate the chaos of raising a family. The next, I was a single dad with 2 kids under 5, trying to make sense of how everything fell apart. At first, I thought Maria might come around, that she was just overwhelmed by the pressures of parenthood and would eventually realize what she was leaving behind. I held on to a small foolish hope that she'd wake up one day, see Liam and Ava's faces in her mind and decide they were worth fighting for, but she didn't. She left without much of an explanation, barely saying goodbye. A week later, I was served with divorce papers. The swiftness of it all was shocking. One day we were a family fractured. Yes, but still together. The next she was gone. She didn't fight for custody, not even joint custody. It was as though she didn't want the reminder of what she'd walked away from. The courts ordered her to pay the bare minimum in child support and she agreed without argument. Then just like that, she moved to another state and cut off all contact. It was as if she wanted to erase us from her life entirely. Liam was 5 at the time, old enough to notice and ask questions. He'd come up to me with those big innocent eyes and ask, "Where did mommy go? When is she coming back?" How do you answer that? How do you explain to a little boy that his mom chose to leave? I tried my best, telling him that mommy had to go away for a while, but it didn't stop him from asking. He waited by the window some nights watching the driveway as if Maria might pull in at any moment. Ava was just 3 then, too young to understand what was happening, but not too young to feel the change. She'd wander the house calling out for her. "Mommy? Mommy?" she'd say, her little voice echoing through the quiet. It was heartbreaking. I scoop her up and hold her tight, but no amount of hugs fill the void she'd left behind. I was 34 at the time and suddenly, the entire weight of our little family was on my shoulders. I had a steady job, but it wasn't enough to cover everything. The child support barely made a dent in the bills. Those first few years were a blur. Every day felt like an uphill battle. I'd wake up before the sun to pack lunches, rush the kids to daycare and head to work. After 8 exhausting hours, I'd race back to pick them up, make dinner, help with homework and squeeze in a bedtime story before collapsing into bed myself. There were nights I barely slept, lying awake and worrying. Would I be able to pay the rent this month? Could I afford Liam's school supplies or Ava's dance class? Would my kids grow up thinking they weren't enough because their mom had left? The worry was constant, a weight that never lifted. Liam, even as a little boy, seemed to sense my struggles. He was always the quieter, more introspective one, taking on more than a child ever should. He'd do these small sweet things to try and help. Once, when I was particularly stressed about money, he brought me the few dollars he'd saved from his allowance and held it out to me saying, "Dad, I think you need this more than I do." It broke my heart and made me so proud of him all at once. He tried to fix things around the house with his little plastic toolkit, banging on loose cabinet doors and insisting he could take care of it. He'd keep Ava company when I was too busy, reading her picture books or helping her color. Liam carried so much weight on those small shoulders. And while I was grateful for his thoughtfulness, I worried constantly about the toll it was taking on him. Ava, on the other hand, was a firecracker. Even as a toddler, she was stubborn, full of energy, always asking questions and testing boundaries. She had this fierce determination about her, a spirit I admired and encouraged. I also saw how deeply she felt things. As she grew older, Ava started to struggle with feelings of rejection. She wouldn't talk about it directly, but the signs were there. She'd make little comments that broke my heart, like when she'd point out that her friends' moms came to their soccer games or how Mother's Day at school was her least favorite day of the year. One time, she came home upset because the teacher had asked everyone to make a Mother's Day card and she didn't know what to write. She tried to act like it didn't bother her, brushing it off with an "I don't care" or whatever, but I knew better. Ava was tough, but she was just a kid and kids need to feel loved and wanted. Maria's absence left a hole in her life, one she didn't always know how to talk about. The hardest part for me was feeling like I had to be everything at once. Both mom and dad, provider and nurturer, disciplinarian and comforter. I wanted to shield them from the pain of Maria's choices, but I couldn't erase it entirely. All I could do was show them that they were enough, that they were loved beyond measure. We fell into a rhythm eventually, but it wasn't easy. Money was tight and there were plenty of sacrifices. Liam wanted to join a club in middle school, but the fees were too high. And Ava had to settle for second-hand soccer cleats because I couldn't afford new ones still. We found joy where we could. I worked hard to make sure the kids felt safe and happy, even when I felt like I was barely holding it together. Maria, meanwhile, seemed to be living her dream. I would hear bits and pieces through mutual friends or see things pop up on social media, like how she got promoted at work, bought a fancy condo, and was always jetting off to some new country for business. She looked happy, at least from what I could see through social media. She was living the life she had always talked about, climbing the corporate ladder, traveling the world, experiencing all the luxuries that came with success. It was the life she'd always wanted for herself, but not once did she reach out to me, not even a birthday message to her kids. No calls, no cards, no acknowledgement of their lives. At first, I tried not to be bitter. I told myself that maybe she was just busy, that maybe she was adjusting to her new life. And that one day she'd remember she had a family, but the years passed and I honestly stopped caring. The more time passed, the less I thought about her. I focused on raising Liam and Ava and on making sure that they knew they were loved and that they had everything they needed from me. Now, Liam is 20 and in his second year of college. He's studying engineering, works a part-time job, and is thriving. He's still quiet, but has grown into a thoughtful, resilient young man. Ava, now 17, is in her senior year of high school and preparing to graduate. She's as strong-willed as ever, talking about applying for so many prestigious colleges. They've both grown into incredible people despite everything. Then out of nowhere, Maria sent me an email last week. She's 50 now and recently retired. Apparently, after selling a company she helped build, she said she's been reflecting on her choices and wants to reconnect with the kids. He mentioned setting up a trust fund for them and said he hoped it could be a way to start fresh. He claimed he wanted to make amends and hoped I could help facilitate a meeting. It was bizarre, like reading a message from a stranger. I told the kids about it because they deserve to know. Liam was indifferent, saying, she made her choices. Ava, however, was furious. She called her a stranger and said she didn't want anything to do with her. I could see the hurt behind her anger, though. It's one thing to feel abandoned, but it's another to have that person suddenly try to come back into your life as if nothing happened. I haven't replied to Maria yet. I don't even know what to say. Part of me wants to tell her exactly how much damage she caused by leaving and how her absence shaped our lives, but another part of me thinks it's pointless. What good would it do? The kids are old enough to make their own decisions, and it's clear they don't want a relationship with her right now. Still, I can't help but feel conflicted. Should I encourage them to at least hear her out? Would it be better for them to have some kind of closure, or am I opening the door for more pain and disappointment? I'm turning to this community because I don't know what the right answer is. Have any of you been in a similar situation? How did you handle it? I don't want to make the wrong choices for my kids, and I feel like I'm walking a tightrope here. Any advice would mean the world to me. Update 1. Hi, guys. I want to start by saying thank you for all the support, advice, and kind words. I didn't expect my story to resonate with so many people, and it's comforting to know I'm not alone in navigating something like this. A few of you have questions, and I'll try to answer those as I update you on what's happened since my last post. This situation has been a whirlwind, but the feedback and encouragement here have been a lifeline for me. First, let me address something a few people pointed out, why I even considered hearing Maria out. Trust me. It wasn't because I'm a pushover or willing to forgive what she did without thought, but I'm a parent first. And if there's even a 1% chance that Maria's involvement could somehow improve my kids' futures, whether financially or emotionally, I felt I had to explore it. That said, I would never force Liam or Ava to interact with anyone, let alone the woman who walked out on them. It was ultimately their decision, and I was always going to respect that. After sitting down with Liam and Ava for another conversation, this time with calm minds, it became clear we were all on the same page. Both of them firmly decided they didn't want anything to do with Maria, not even her trust fund. They both expressed that any kind of relationship with her felt like an attempt to buy back their love, which they found insulting. Liam said, I don't want a dime from someone who couldn't even pick up the phone on my birthdays. Ava, always fiery, added that accepting her money felt like letting her off the hook for all the years she missed. So I responded to Maria and kept it short and direct, congratulating her on her success and the sale of her company. I also told her that Liam and Ava had no interest in reconnecting with her or accepting any help, financial or otherwise. I made it clear that their decision was final and based on years of feeling abandoned. I didn't sugarcoat it. I told her as kindly as I could that while her effort to make amends might be coming from a good place now, it was too late. They had built their lives without her. They didn't feel there was a space for her in them anymore. Hitting send on that email felt more satisfying than I could put into words. Some of you suggested we take the money because, after all, she owed it to us. And while the thought is tempting, I just couldn't do it. I've worked too hard, and Liam and Ava have worked too hard to let her swoop in and throw money at the life she walked away from. It's not about pride. It's about principle. I want my kids to know that we don't need anything from someone who abandoned us. The life we've built is ours, and I won't let her money put a price tag on it. Of course, Maria didn't take the rejection gracefully. She responded with another email, this time a little longer and more emotional. She talked about how she's changed and regrets the choices she made. She said she was lonely and hoped we could all start fresh. She even hinted that Liam and Ava might regret not having a relationship with her one day. Reading her words, I couldn't help but feel angry. Where was this regret when Liam was crying at night, wondering why his mom didn't love him enough to stay? Where was this newfound self-awareness when Ava was struggling with self-doubt, wondering if she wasn't good enough to keep her mom around? I didn't reply. I don't think there's anything left to say. It wasn't just the email that brought up old wounds for all of us over the last few days. This situation has stirred up memories I hadn't thought about in years, and I found myself remembering birthdays where the kids made wishes that their mom would come back. I thought about the time Liam wrote her a letter when he was 7 asking why she didn't love him anymore and how I had to gently explain that we couldn't send it because we didn't even have her address. I thought about all the times I saw Ava quietly watching her friends with their moms, pretending it didn't bother her when I knew it did. For Ava and Liam, it's been a mix of emotions. Ava is mostly stoic as usual, but I can tell this stirred up some unresolved feelings. She's kept herself busy with school and work, but there's a quietness about her this week that worries me. Liam, on the other hand, has been vocal about how this has dredged up old wounds. He said it feels like Maria is trying to rewrite history by acting like she cares now when she didn't care then. It's hard to see them go through this, but I'm proud of how they handled it. They're so strong, even when it hurts. On a personal note, I've been reflecting a lot too. I think part of me always wondered what I'd say to Maria if she ever came back. I imagined I'd have this big moment where I'd finally get to tell her everything I'd been holding in, the anger, the hurt, the betrayal. But now that the moment is here, I don't feel the need to say much at all. I think that's what growth looks like, realizing you don't need closure from the person who hurt you to move on. A few people here shared stories about reconnecting with estranged parents, and I want to thank you for that. It's been helpful to hear different perspectives. For now, I'm focusing on supporting Ava and Liam as they navigate their feelings about this. I've also decided to start therapy for myself again. I used to go years ago, but life got busy, and I let it slip. This whole situation has brought up a lot of unresolved feelings I didn't realize I still had, and I think it's time to work through them. To anyone reading this who's been in a similar situation, thank you for your advice and encouragement. This isn't easy, but it helps knowing that there are others who face these challenges and come out stronger on the other side. I'll keep you all updated if anything changes. But for now, we're focusing on healing and moving forward just like we always have. Update 2. Hello, everyone. When I last updated, I truly believed that we were done with this entire situation. Maria had reached out. I'd responded on behalf of my kids, and we'd all moved on, or so I thought. Unfortunately, life had other plans, and the situation escalated in ways I wasn't prepared for. Maria showed up at our house. Yes, she came unannounced, standing outside and calling out for Liam and me to open the door. Ava wasn't home at the time. She was at work, and I honestly wish Liam and I hadn't been home either. Seeing her standing there was jarring. She looked desperate. And while a big part of me wanted to ignore her, another part felt like I needed to let Liam see for himself the kind of person she was. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. The moment she stepped inside, Maria launched into a flood of excuses and justifications for her past. She claimed that everything she'd done, the years of silence, the focus on her career, the complete abandonment, was all for us. She insisted that she had left to create a better future for Liam and Ava, to give them a life of comfort and privilege. Hearing her say this was almost surreal, as if she had written history in her mind to make herself the hero of a story that didn't exist. Ava stood there, arms crossed, her face blank, but her silence spoke volumes. I could tell he wasn't buying a single word she said, and neither was I. Maria's words didn't match the reality we lived through. She didn't leave to provide for us. She left because she didn't want the responsibilities of a family. When it became clear that neither Liam nor I were responding the way she wanted, Maria changed tactics. She turned her attention to Liam, softening her tone, trying to appeal to him directly. She started talking about his future, mentioning how she could help him travel the world before he started college. She painted a picture of luxurious vacations, fully funded by her, as if that would be enough to make him forget the years of neglect. Liam didn't say anything, but his body language made it clear he wasn't interested. It was painful to watch her try to manipulate him. She clearly thought she could buy his affection or convince him with grand gestures. When none of it worked, her demeanor shifted yet again. The pleading and charm disappeared, replaced by anger and blame. She turned on me, accusing me of poisoning the kids against her. She claimed I had brainwashed them into forgetting all the things she had supposedly done for them when they were younger. Hearing her say that was infuriating. The truth is I've never spoken ill of Maria to Ava or Liam. I didn't need to. Her actions, or lack thereof, spoke for themselves. Still, standing there and listening to her twist the narrative was like a slap in the face. I wanted to say something to defend myself and set the record straight, but in the moment, I felt paralyzed. Maria didn't stop there. She went on and on, saying that I had ruined the relationship she could have had with her children. She acted as though she was the victim, completely ignoring the fact that she was the one who chose to leave. She even had the audacity to suggest that I'd made it impossible for her to come back sooner, as if that were ever a decision I had control over. Before I could respond, Ava came home. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. She walked in, immediately sensed the tension in the room, and asked what was going on. Maria tried to shift gears again, this time turning her attention to Ava. She started talking about how proud she was of Ava's accomplishments, how she had been following her progress and knew she had a bright future ahead. She said she wanted to be part of that future, to support her in whatever way she could. Ava didn't let her finish. She simply told Maria to leave. Her voice was calm but firm, and there was no room for argument. Maria tried to push back, insisting that she had a right to see her children and be part of their lives, but Ava stood her ground. She told Maria that she had lost that right the day she walked away, and nothing she could say or do now would change that. Watching Ava handle the situation with such strength and clarity made me incredibly proud. She didn't let Maria manipulate her or guilt her into anything. She just stood up for herself and for Liam in a way that I hadn't been able to in the moment. Maria left after that, but not without making one last comment. She said that one day we would all regret shutting her out and that we would realize she was only trying to help. It was classic Maria, always deflecting blame and painting herself as the victim. After she left, I sat down with Ava and Liam to process everything that had just happened. Liam was furious, saying that he couldn't believe she had the nerve to show up and expect forgiveness after everything she had done. Ava, as usual, was quieter, but I could tell she was upset too. She said it felt like Maria was trying to rewrite history to erase the pain she caused by throwing money at the situation. The whole ordeal has been emotionally draining. It's brought up so many old wounds, not just for Ava and Liam, but for me as well. I've been reflecting a lot on the kind of life we've built since Maria left. It hasn't been easy, but it's been ours. We've faced challenges together, grown together, and become stronger because of it. Maria doesn't get to come back now and take credit for any of that. I'm still processing everything that happened, but one thing is clear, we don't need Maria, and we never did. Her presence, or lack thereof, doesn't define us. We've built a life that is rich in love and resilience, and no amount of money or empty apologies can change that. Thank you to everyone who's been following the journey and offering your support. It's been a tough few days, but knowing that there are people out there who understand and care has made a world of difference. I'll keep you updated if anything else happens, but for now, we're focusing on healing and moving forward. Update 3. Hi guys. I'm back again. A few days ago, something else happened, and I thought you should know. Things have finally come to a close, but it wasn't without one last dramatic encounter. Liam and I were out doing our regular grocery shopping. It was a normal day, nothing out of the ordinary, until we came across Maria. I don't know how it happened, but there she was, standing a few aisles away. I saw her before she noticed us, and for a moment, I thought maybe we could just keep moving and avoid any kind of interaction. But of course, Maria spotted us, and she wasn't about to let the opportunity pass. She made a beeline for us and immediately started shouting, drawing attention to herself like always. She accused me of taking the kids away from her, asking if I was happy now that I succeeded in turning them against her. She was loud, angry, and completely oblivious to the fact that we were in a public place. Liam stood frozen beside me, and I could feel him tense up as Maria continued her tirade. That was my breaking point. I'd held my tongue before, let her have her say, and tried to take the high road, but this time, I couldn't stay silent. I turned to her and asked very clearly and loudly how exactly I had taken her kids away from her when she had been missing in action for 12 years. I asked her where she was during the birthdays, the holidays, the milestones. Where was she when Eva was struggling in school or when Liam needed someone to cheer him up at his soccer games? I reminded her that she was the one who chose to walk away, not me, and that her absence was entirely her doing. Maria didn't have an answer to any of it. She just stood there stunned, and I let out 12 years worth of frustration. For the first time, I wasn't holding back. I wasn't polite or measured. I was honest, and it felt good. It felt like finally closing a chapter I didn't even realize was still open. But then I noticed people starting to gather. Shoppers were stopping to watch, their carts idling as they stared at the scene Maria had created. And that's when I realized I'd said enough. I didn't need to prove anything to her or anyone else. Liam and I turned to leave, but Maria tried to follow us, still shouting something about how I'd ruined her relationship with her kids. Thankfully, a store employee stepped in. He got in between us and Maria, telling her very firmly that if she took one more step, they would call the cops. Maria looked like she wanted to argue but must have realized she had no leg to stand on. She backed off, and Liam and I left the store. On the way home, I kept replaying the encounter in my head. I just cannot describe how emotional I felt. A little bit of relief, anger, sadness, and even a bit of guilt for losing my temper in public. Liam was quiet for most of the ride, but when we got home, he told me he was proud of me for standing up to her. That meant the world to me because all I've ever wanted is to show my kids that they deserve better than what Maria gave them. Since that day, Maria has disappeared. None of our friends or family has heard from her, and honestly, I don't care to know where she is as long as my kids and I are safe. That's all that matters. She's proven time and again that she's only interested in causing chaos, and I'm done letting her have any influence over our lives. This whole experience has reminded me of what's truly important, Liam and Eva. Eva is all grown up now, but I know this situation has impacted her deeply. She's always been the quieter one, keeping her feelings to herself, but I can see how much this has weighed on her. I'm keeping an eye on her, making sure she knows I'm here for her if she ever wants to talk. As for Liam, I can tell he's still processing everything. He's strong and independent, but he's also only 17, and this has been a lot for him to handle. I've decided to sit down with him and discuss whether he feels the need for therapy. I want him to have all the tools he needs to heal and move forward. And if talking to a professional can help, then that's exactly what we'll do. Through all of this, I've realized how important it is to focus on the life we've built together, the three of us. We don't need Maria, and we never did. Eva and Liam are incredible young adults, and I couldn't be prouder of them. We've weathered so many storms together, and each one has made us stronger. I can't thank you all enough for the support and kindness you've shown me through this journey. Sharing my story here has been cathartic in a way I didn't expect, and the advice and encouragement I've received have meant more to me than I can say. For now, I'm putting this chapter behind us and focusing on the future, a future where we are safe, happy, and free of Maria's shadow. Thank you for being here for us.